The Hungarian countess Elizabeth Báthory is said to have murdered hundreds of girls and bathed in their blood to keep herself beautiful. But is there any truth in the gory story, or is it just a malicious lie? In the first decade of the 17th century, some disturbing claims swirled around the Kingdom of Hungary of young girls' disappearances, of torture, and of murder. At the center of them all was one woman accused of wanton cruelty and sadism, a countess named Elizabeth Báthory. Seemingly, she targeted poor girls from the local villages either by kidnapping or luring them to her many castles with the promise of work. Nothing was initially done about this, however, not least since the victims were mere peasants while Báthory was wealthy, intelligent, and powerful. Who was Elizabeth Báthory? Born on 7 August 1560 into Protestant nobility, her family held dominion over Transylvania, a de facto independent principality within the kingdom, modern-day Romania, with her uncle, Stephen Báthory, ruling as prince as well as king of Poland and Grand Duke of Lithuania. Despite the accusations against her, this birthright meant that Báthory remained at liberty at Countess Castle, her domineering Gothic pile on top of a hillside that had been a wedding present. In 1575, when still a teenager, she had been married to Count Ferenc Nadasdy, himself a member of a major aristocratic dynasty who went on to command the Hungarian army in wars against the Ottoman Empire, and the couple had 5 known children together. It was after Nadasdy's death in 1604 that the whispers and fears regarding Báthory began to proliferate. That was also when her heinous crimes, torture and murder, intensified. Báthory, it was said, took pleasure in a catalog of gruesome acts, stabbing victims under the fingernails with needles, cutting, burning, even biting their flesh, beating and starving them to death, leaving them outside to freeze or covering them with honey so they would be attacked by insects. It was said she had a purpose-built torture chamber and that she associated with witches. Still, it was only after the allegations suggested that her victims had started to include young noble girls that they were taken seriously. Báthory supposedly invited daughters of the gentry to attend a form of finishing school at her castles, finishing being the operative word. How many girls did Elizabeth Báthory kill? The Count Palatine of Hungary, György Thurzó, was ordered to investigate, and he took dozens of witness statements. He reached the conclusion that Báthory had killed at least 80 girls, although that may have been a fraction of the total number, which is said to have been more than 300. György Thurzó, shown here lying in his coffin following his death in 1616, ordered the arrest of the countess and her accomplices. Her accomplices confessed and were put on trial, with 3 being executed and the last imprisoned for life, but she never stood trial for her crimes. Her noble status and the scandal that could have ensued convinced Thurzó to have her confined within Countess Castle instead. How did Elizabeth Báthory die? Confined in Countess Castle, reportedly in rooms that had been completely walled up with only small slits to allow food to be passed through, Báthory saw out the final few years of her life. Báthory was found dead, aged 54, on 21st August 1614. If everything said about Báthory was true, then she certainly deserves her reputation as the most prolific female serial killer in history. That is the title bestowed upon her by Guinness World Records. Today, she is also remembered essentially as a vampire, since a part of her legacy is that she would drink the blood of her victims as a means of preserving her youth. For that, she has sometimes been referred to as Countess Dracula. Was Báthory innocent? But there is another possibility. Báthory was innocent and herself a victim of obscene accusations by those wishing to get rid of her or seize her money and lands. And it is from those machinations that her terrifying reputation grew. To this day, the most notorious detail about Báthory is that she actually bathed in the blood of virgins in a bid for eternal life. But that was in addition to her legend more than a century after her death. Recent scholarship has suggested that political rivalries, familial greed, and pervasive misogyny helped fuel the many rumors instigating her arrest.
Her son-in-laws looked to take control of her estates, while the Hungarian king owed Báthory a significant debt, so wasted no time in having that expunged. Most of Thurzo's witness statements, it turned out, were not based on first-hand information. Her servants' confessions had been extracted under torture, and the huge death toll was said to have been based on a list Báthory kept but was never found. The truth remains far from certain. Complaints about Báthory's cruelty and violent proclivities had come years before her arrest, after all, and not from a rival, but a Lutheran minister named István Magyari. It seems at least plausible that she was guilty of a degree of sadistic behavior, a callous treatment of the lower classes, for example, in the not entirely mistaken belief that her noble status protected her. To maintain that she tortured, brutalized, and murdered hundreds of girls, let alone that she performed acts that could be described as vampiric, is quite another matter.